As countries reopen for business, tourism is slowly picking up too. But COVID-19's taken a heavy toll on the industry. So how can it recover? What changes are needed to make tourism sustainable? And do tourists even have the appetite to travel now? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria. So it is the middle of June. In the Northern Hemisphere, schools are almost out and the traditional holiday season is upon us. But what is traditional about emerging from a months-long global pandemic lockdown? Yes, travel restrictions are gradually being lifted in many countries and tourist attractions are back on the itinerary, but there are so many catches along the way now. Some European countries, well, they have now opened borders to each other. But for now, that's it. Tourists from other countries will have to wait. Others are welcoming visitors from nations that have the coronavirus under control. But then you have to think about health certificates, quarantine and other precautions which might be needed. And going on holiday, if you can, is likely to be a very different experience if we're all wearing masks and standing 2 meters apart.
We have a wide range of protection measures in hotels. For example, we've spaced out dining tables, sunbathing beds and buffets at a safe distance. A lot of things have changed, including the way we clean the hotels. All of our staff and customers have to follow the safe standards.
OK, so it's going to look and feel a whole lot different, isn't it? Here now are some brief reactions from holidaymakers as to what awaits them.
Yes, we are totally happy that we can go to Mallorca because it was on the edge for a long time. And we're having our holidays now. We just can't postpone it. To stay in Germany was not an option for us. And well, yes, we are totally happy that we can get out of the country.
The government has very good control. Very few people got infected and I feel very, very safe in here. And that's why I choose to, travel to Santorini and next week I'm going to Crete. No problem for me to worry about the virus.
There was something missing during the last 3 months when the Polish-German border was closed and we couldn't go there to shop. That's why we walked right over there today.
So for those people, there are some positive signs, aren't there? But there has been an awful lot of damage done to the industry in 2020. The World Economic Forum has said tourism is expected to fall 80% this year. When you break that down, we see arrivals in tourism resorts down by just under 60% in March. That was when the lockdowns were mostly imposed. And a loss of about 67 million people is what that equates to. Disruption in the first 3 months of 2020 is estimated to have cost around $80 billion in lost income. The Asia-Pacific's been hardest hit, followed by Europe, while the Middle East is the least impacted so far. And on the employment front, up to 120 million tourism jobs worldwide are at risk because of the decrease in demand for travel. And that decrease, well, it looks like this, a 58% reduction in visitors for the year if restrictions are eased in early July, or it could be a 78% drop if that only happens in December. The loss in international tourists could reach more than 1 billion people. So for a global story, we've got guests from all over, starting in Agadir, Morocco, with Rachid Dammaz. He is the president of the Agadir Regional Council of Tourism. In Madrid, Alessandra Prianti, director of the Europe Regional Department at the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And in Bangkok is Mario Hardy, CEO of the Pacific Asia Travel Association. Thank you all for joining us. I've got a sort of an opening thought here, which I want to put to all of you and get a brief response from each of you. The idea that post-COVID-19, whenever and whatever that is, this could go one of two ways. Either we've learnt some lessons and we think more about how much we travel, where we travel, how we do it, and we think about the implications of that, or everything goes back to normal because people have been cooped up for months and they just want to get on holiday and they want to get out and travel again. Rachid, I'll start with you. Which one of those scenarios do you think is more likely to happen?
Let me just say a brief word about the management of the pandemic in Morocco, if you permit me. This is in Morocco. The Moroccan state has managed successfully the pandemic, and the population have shown a fantastic surge of solidarity, and the pandemic was well controlled, successfully controlled. If you check all the books today, or all the statistics about all the countries, we have registered one of the lowest number of dead of all over the world. And this has made the population in confidence and has approached them to a realistic situation. Regarding the COVID, after the COVID-19, let's say that today, as long as the borders are closed and the sky is still closed also, that we are not expecting too much from the international tourism, at least for the next 3 months or 4 months. I mean, Europe, as we are in Africa, North Africa, and the tourism are representing a lot for us, for our economy and for our finance, means almost 7.5%. And today we are expecting and working very hardly to promote the domestic market, the domestic tourism, to encourage people to spend their holiday inside of Morocco.
No, domestic, that is important, and I'm going to come back to that later on. I want to talk more about that.
Yes.
Let's bring Alessandra into the conversation. What do you think? How's it? What's your almost gut feeling about how this might go once, as Rashid was talking about, the restrictions can finally get lifted and airspaces can be opened?
Well, that's a very good question. The thing is, besides doing forecasts, we would like to wish that things go actually differently. There needs to be some lessons learned. We cannot just start. We all know it's going to be a very slow start. We all know that in touristic terms, 2020 is basically gone. So it was very crucial for the government and for the private sector to make sure that everything is done to leave a survivor line. But what is very important is that when we restart tourism, we do it in a very, first of all, in a very coordinated way, because there's no time for real competition at the moment. We really have to be a little bit united, especially into the European Union and Europe region area, which is, as we say in UNWTO, normally accounts for 51% of all international arrivals in the world. So we do have a responsibility there. But we also think that, things, as I was saying, lesson learned, things cannot be the same. We cannot just aim at bringing back the same numbers. As we were mentioning, something needs to change, but not only on the demand side, of the way that we travel, also on the offer side. And I'm not referring to social distancing or other things, which I really and strongly hope that they're going to be just temporary measures. I think that there needs to be a way of looking at tourism which really incorporates sustainability, not just as a maquillage to any nice national or international policy, but more of a way of living, of a business model. We say that sustainability and innovation have to become the new normal, and this has to be the reality. Otherwise, it just takes another pandemic to strike the whole thing down again.
It's so easy to happen again, isn't it? Mario, let's bring you in from Bangkok, where I believe at least domestic tourism has already reopened a couple of weeks ago. What sort of signs have you seen from at least the Thai population about their willingness to get back out there?
Tourism has been reopened for just about 2 weeks domestically. As you stated at the beginning, everybody actually flocked back into the beach resorts. Most resorts in the 8 destinations that have actually been open around Bangkok, driving distance, are actually mostly sold out for the next couple of weeks. I've actually tried to book my favorite resort for this month. I'll have to wait till the end of July at the moment. So everyone is actually flocking back into traveling again.
Maybe I'm too conservative, Mario, but doesn't that sound premature? I mean, I know that things need to get moving again, but we've gone through a very serious global situation. And the moment you start packing people in together, well, anything could happen.
Yes, but actually maybe in Thailand we're in a little different situation. We had just over 3,000 cases of COVID-19 in Thailand. We haven't had many cases in recent weeks. People are back to work, but all the precautions are there. Everyone is wearing their mask. Social distancing is well implemented. We have contact tracing to QR codes in various public places. Restaurants are separated by fiberglass. and all the hotels are adopting new protocols for sanitizations and etc. So far, so good, but it's only been 2 weeks.
Okay. Rashid, in Agadir, let me come to you because you first raised this issue of, or this idea of more domestic tourism. How are Moroccans responding to that? I mean, so much of Morocco is international tourism, I think. Do people there want to go and get out and visit their own country?
Yes. Most of the Moroccans, they are very excited, after 3.5 months or 4 months of being locked down, and they are very excited. The first part of the uncontainment has been over since 2 days or 3 days, and starting from the 20th of June, the lockdown will be just over. I hope it's going to be only a souvenir, not a good one. But the Moroccans, according to the last studies we did with the Tourist Board Office, with the Ministry of Tourism, 76% of all the people, of all the Moroccans, they want to spend their holiday in Morocco, and they want to stay in Morocco, and they are very excited. Of course, there are some questions everybody is asking. First thing is how safe we are in the hotels and how it's going to look like in the hotels. Are we going to go spend holiday in a hospital or in a hotel? You know what I mean? I mean, all the restriction, the physical or the social distanciation, all the protocol, the healthy protocol, which has to be set up by the hotels in terms of detergent, disinfection, masks and everything, how to deal with the customers in the restaurant, in the kitchen, in the swimming pool, in the beaches. We are in a summer holiday and the people are really excited. They want to go out, they want to enjoy. Tourism is equal to a pleasant, it's an ambiance. Tourism is an ambiance, is a well-being, and the people, they want to be there. And it's very difficult in the same time to send people to spend holiday, swim and enjoy themselves, and in the same time to be restrictive. Then we have to be very, very clever to manage it in a funny way. We have planned to have individual entertainment, instead of having those big groups or those big show. We have prepared the individual entertainment just to make it funny and not to go back to outside in a sad situation. We want to make it as a enjoyment, as a funny time, and how to combine both of them. We've been discussing all the time, and I think the best way is to go progressively, because nobody knows how tomorrow will be, and nobody knows this pandemic when it's gonna finish. I hope very, very quickly. But we have to go progressively and not to make any mistake, because at the end, the health of the population is more important than economy or the finance, if we believe in that.
So we hear from Rashid and we hear from Mario some positive sorts of stories about getting proactive and trying to make it work, which is great. But Alessandra, it would be remiss to not look at the impact that COVID has already had. You touched on that a little bit earlier, but some of these numbers talking about up to 120 million jobs at risk and well, a tourism job, can you define that for us? Because it goes well beyond someone who's working for an airline or a hotel or something like that.
Well, totally, because when we talk about it's the same when we evaluate the impact of GDP, we have direct and we have indirect, and we have permanent, we have seasonal. What tourism does is that, I always refer to it as a cloud, because it's really large and it's really, everyone says it's horizontal, it crosses over many sectors. Reality is it's very, very tangible because it involves, as I said, in a direct and indirect way, the economic lives of a very large part of our societies. Because in destinations, for example, you mentioned Rome, and I can mention any other very, very important destinations in Italy, like Venice, who are more world icons than just national icons. If you think about that, and definitely, especially in places like Venice, there will be a need to reactivate a larger system, because if you think about it, the majority of the population of Venice has moved out because of the amount of tourism, because of the fact that You know, you remember we were talking over tourism just a few months ago in a place like Venice, and now there's basically zero. So when you reactivate that type of economy, you have to also be incredibly careful. Another thing to be a little bit more grounded is that definitely, for example, countries like Italy and Spain that were very, very affected and that were very much in the news, honestly, where, you know, there's a great reputation impact because, you know, all of a sudden here we go and it's not safe anymore to go to Italy, and people coming from Italy or people holding an Italian passport most of the times were even, you know, discriminated or sent back home because I've seen episodes of this happening. But these countries have been reacting very strongly to make sure that the measures are implemented and to make sure that the communication that it's safe to go on vacation in these destinations is actually there. But I have to be honest with you, the problem is not the demand. I think the demand for tourism is still high, especially now that we've all been locked. All we want to do is get out, really and truly. The problem is the sustainability, the economic sustainability of the enterprises, of the SMEs, of all the people, the jobs, the companies, as I said, small micro enterprises and the bigger ones that are actually able to survive and actually able to make it through 2020 over to 2021, where we hope that the demand and the offer are going to reach a more stable equilibrium, going, I would say, not back to normal, but, you know, sort of reaching back.
Yeah. You said reactivation and sustainability. I'm going to come back to those issues just before we finish up. Mario, I want to come to you. Just a brief comment, because we've looked at the aviation industry on Inside Story before, but I do want to mention it today as well, because this is a big part of as well, whether people want to get on a plane again, how they will get on a plane, social distancing on a plane. The industry is going to have to make changes, which I suspect will actually be more long-term than certainly they would like, and than the passengers would like as well.
Yes, I certainly see that the aviation sector is actually implementing new procedures that will outlive actually the pandemic, will carry on much longer afterwards. As we experienced after 9/11, security in airports were enhanced. Health controls into airports as we travel will most likely continue for an extensive period of time. And some of it actually may remain after COVID-19. IATA, ICAO, ACI for the Airport Council Internationals are also already putting procedures and protocols in place to facilitate actually travel, air travel moving forward. And the challenge at the moment is ensuring that each country is implement these standards in a similar fashion. So that actually we have seamless travel as we travel from one point and connecting to another point to another destination.
So actually this could potentially change the way we holiday. For example, you might have thought in the past, okay, I'm going to take a month off and I'm going to fly to Paris and then I'm going to hop to Spain and I'm going to hop to Italy, you know, short stays in multiple places. But if you've got quarantine or health checks to worry about in each of those places, you wouldn't be able to do that anymore.
I think for the short and medium term period, certainly there will be complication. It will be challenging, as you just described, to travel from one place to another. But I do believe that over a period of time, we will actually come into a consensus and to some normalization of actually travel. It will be facilitated. We'll have either health certificate, digital certificates, or other means to actually control who's immune, who's not immune, and how actually people move from one place to another.
OK, so let's go back to these issues then as we look forward, sustainability and reactivation. Rashid, in Agadir, you mentioned some ideas before that you've had about how to make the experience, you know, more fun while still having to adhere to the social distancing rules. I mean, is there a lesson to learn that you can carry that forward and incorporate it in the future so that we don't have these situations arising again?
This is the pandemic is something which is exceptional. It's recognized that we have never seen such a big crisis like that. Nobody was expecting that, and we have to recognize the whole world was completely confused and confusing, and every government was doing something which they believe on the the danger of the pandemic, and others didn't believe, and you know that, all of us. Now we are trying to adapt ourselves to a situation. Shall we go for after COVID-19 and to set up a new procedure, a new protocol? How long this protocol and procedure gonna take? It's gonna take 6 months, 7 months until we get the vaccine, the new one, or it's gonna be all the year? What about the next winter? Shall we do that? But one thing is sure, that everybody has learned a very, very good lessons from this pandemic. And we have to recognize that we are all in the same boat and we are all the same earth. Hopefully that the nature has not been hurt. The sun is still there.
That's the difficult thing, though, isn't it? You've said, we're all in the same boat and we've all learnt lessons, but it requires everyone to actually adhere to them. We're already seeing on a smaller level the people who wear masks and the people who don't wear masks. It comes down to the individual, and that's something you can't control.
Exactly. Today the tourism has been very strongly hurted and deeply hurted, and the economy of tourism is almost bankrupted. But this is something we have to prepare. Now there is a new vision, a new strategy, a new way. Now if we're required to fill the hotel 50% and the plane 50%, we have to look at the financial side of this story. Because if you say to a company you have to fill only half of the plane, means that the price will be double. Is the population in situation to pay more for the moment? And especially in those times where jobs have been lost and a lot of people find themselves one day later without any income. And what about the hotels? The hotel is also a lot of investment. What kind of price policy and what are the accompaniment measures, instructed by the government? In Morocco, let me say that there was a fund created by the King Mohammed VI, about $3.5 billion. This is, we call it COVID-19 fund, to help the companies to support the salaries of the people. We are talking about almost 1 million people working directly in tourism, without talking about indirect jobs. We are expecting more. They have done a lot of facilities in terms of taxes, in terms of
Rashid, I'll just interrupt you there. Sorry, just because we are running out of time, and I just want to briefly leave the final word with Alessandra, because you raised this idea of sustainability. Do you believe the tourism industry can be sustainable and still financially viable?
Totally, because if you think about it, Kamal, sustainability technically is tripartite, is economic sustainability, then we have financial and aspects, we have environmental sustainability, and we have social and cultural sustainability. We do believe at UNWTO that definitely the resilience of the sector, of the tourism sector, is a core value that will allow, again, the engine to be started. But as I said before in the beginning, this pandemic has to be a lesson learned, because we've been hit at the heart. Nobody was expecting anything like this in Europe to happen. In a way, we didn't understand our weaknesses that much as we did now. But what we need to do is we cannot make the same mistakes again. So this has to be a moment where, in order to make sure that, as I said, sustainability is not just a nice word, but is something which is concrete and pragmatically implemented. And we at UNWTO are next to governments to make sure this happens. We need to introduce a new way of looking at tourism, which requires a larger and deeper programming, which involves demand and offer and a greater relationship.
It'll be a very big project going forward, won't it? I think something that we've all got to work on together. To Rashid Dammaz, Alessandra Prianti and Mario Hadi, thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate it. And thank you for watching as well. We are online in all the usual places, aljazeera.com, of course, in the shows section, facebook.com/AJ Inside Story for more discussion, and on Twitter @AJ Inside Story, @Kamal AJE if you want to get in touch with me directly. I'm Kamal Santamaria from the whole team. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.